Oh, they have good ones. All right. So we'll just dive into it.
Let's do it.
So, who are you and where are we?
So I'm Josh Chapman, co-founder of Upweather Beer Company, and we are at Fine Creek Brewing Company in Powhatan, Virginia.
Cool. And then background in terms of what we're doing here.
So we are here because the TNC is on site with the Fine Creek team getting ready to brew their partnered collaborative beer for our upcoming October Forest Fest in September, an awesome project that was started many moons ago out on the Eastern Shore and then expanded to multiple breweries across the state and beyond.
And you're a pretty weird guy, right?
Been told.
Yeah, like
multiple people.
Path and everything, and now you're taking these foraged items. And you had mentioned, I know when we talked, but you had mentioned eelgrass and sorrel and things like sassafras.
Right.
What are you doing?
So I came to brewing in a very non-traditional way. I was a chef and a pastor before I became a brewer. So yeah, not a traditional career.
Is this like a play on words thing where you were like, as the chef, you were like preaching to your staff or?
Oh, easy. They called me preacher. Actually, that was what my chef's apron was, preacher on the chef's apron.
Oh, really?
1,000%.
But you were a pastor before.
But I was a pastor.
Actual pastor.
Actual two chef to brew.
Okay, the normal track career path.
Totally.
Yeah,
exactly what Indeed is looking for when you put your resume online. So as I came to brewing in this really non-traditional way, there were common threads that I took with me, and mostly it was we're built to be in community, and that community extends out not just to the people around us, but to the place as well. Mm-hmm. And the more that we tie ourselves to that community, both time and place and people, the happier we are, the healthier we are, the more that we learn and grow and we're refined. So as I came into brewing, I had been taught as a chef, you can make the best plate of food by getting what's local, in season, and letting it speak for itself. And beer, at least in my estimation, is a food product. It is culinary. It's as much a composed sip as a plate of food can be a composed bite. So I fell in love with, as a brewer, trying to find things that represented the time and place, the community that I'm a part of, brewing beers with those things because I felt like they spoke the most clearly and the most, emotionally and passionately to the people that were in that community. So that's how you find yourself brewing with things like sorrel or eelgrass or pine or whatever it is.
Strange ingredients. So it's funny to me the way you talk about it, because when we talk to a lot of farmers, and there are those that see themselves as scientists,
right,
and those that see themselves as artists,
right.
And I think with chefs sometimes too, right? I find all to be artists, craft artisans, right? Yes. So with what you've been doing with around brewing, is that kind of, do you look at it more as a science or an art?
I think it's certainly for me much more art, and it's storytelling, really. Yeah. I'm trying to communicate, right? And the science helps me get there. You need to do, just like if you're cooking on a stove, there's time and temperature, and you need to use those things to your advantage to get to the end goal. But the end goal is not that something hits all of its measurements. It's that it communicates something, meaning and life and relationship or sentiment, memory, whatever it is. So
what was the first thing that you did forage to put it, like what was the first, ingredient where you didn't have a path ahead of what it's going to do?
I think the first one might have been seaside goldenrod, actually, that I had never used, didn't really know anything about, and just saw it. And I remember people always freaking out about goldenrod. I have a real love of weeds because, oftentimes they're really native.
Yeah.
And they're really beneficial, and they're great as a start for all that ecosystem of the insects coming in, and then the birds coming in, and then all sorts of, like, everything kind of comes back from not mowing down the natives and just putting in whatever we want to put in.
Right.
And seaside goldenrod, we're out on the shore. It's everywhere, and people have this misconception that, like, oh, you need to mow down the goldenrod because it makes you sneeze and cough and have itchy eyes.
Is it not?
But it's not, because it grows next to ragweed, and that's what actually does it.
I got
But people have this weird misconception because the goldenrod is so big and vibrant and beautiful, but it's actually this incredible ingredient. So there was this intention to, I'm going to brew with goldenrod because I'm tired of people lambasting goldenrod. What are you going to do with it? I don't know. Let's try it and see what happens. But yeah, unsurprisingly, it was this beautiful floral honeysuckle, just vibrant dream. We used it in the saison, and it made everything so much more expressive. And I feel like, especially with ingredients like that, they can help you move from painting only in primary to really getting the shades and nuances of flavors that you wouldn't get otherwise.
It's that line about a weed is just a plant we haven't figured out a good use for yet. So you're changing the name from nuisance to ingredient.
Yep.
Which is great. And I'll talk to people about ecological farming practices where it's like, no, you do want weeds, but not where you don't want them. So right next to the beds, but along the peripheral where you are inviting other bugs, where you are inviting birds. And it's funny how our mentality, a lot of the times, whether it's gardening or farming, is trying to remove everything, sterilize, stagnate. And this is kind of bringing some of that back too, where it's like, no, it's all part of an ecosystem, not just of how it grows, but how you use it. So what's the ecosystem when you are putting in these ingredients into the brewing process?
Yeah.
What kind of an ecosystem does that make?
So for me, it makes an ecosystem of tying people back to the community that they exist in, right? I feel like just with as fast as technology is advancing, as much access as we have to so many different things, which can be huge and beneficial, but we seem to be subtracting ourselves from right where we are.
Yeah.
So for me, it's about bringing people back through the vehicle of what we make, beer, to just the world around them and helping them to see what they can actually be part of, the community that is already underneath their feet, they can enjoy and root out. So
yeah, well, and to talk about a little bit about the differences between those, the form and what it allows you to do. What can you do with a mug that you can't do with a plate?
Oh man, so many things. So particularly when we're talking about community, there is such a low barrier of entry for people to do life at a bar over a beer. I mean, it's a social lubricant, right? There are literally, it brings the walls down, the gates down a little bit. It can be for celebrating. It can be for mourning. It can be, what I really love about a great beer is that it can be the topic of conversation, or it can be the aid for conversation and just be in the background. And it can be both things within the same time span of sitting in a bar, right? So I feel like that's unique to beer in particular, because it's so agricultural and it's so every person's beverage. I feel like that it really has that I don't know, that relational aspect.
I did always see that it's social lubricant, right? And it can help people along the way to conversation or bring up topics or whatever else. And you don't always need it just for an alcohol of itself, but it is something in the same way that wine is. People talk about the terroir and our oldest relationship to a drink other than mead, but on the planet, right? And it's been so refined so many times, and it's amazing watching beer's trajectory and how those two too, but these other drinks versus dishes and food, where sometimes food, especially with the stuff you're talking about, is sometimes inaccessible to, right? This is going to be at a nice restaurant that's caring about sourcing and all these other things. That's only a certain echelon of the community that can have that. So this kind of like opens it up a little bit more.
Yeah, because I can make a beer that is born from place, that is incredibly intentional and has a story it's trying to communicate and support and lift up and be unlike any other beer that you can get, because it is born from that place, and it can still be $6 for a glass. So it could still be for anybody. It could still be in the grocery store in a can.
Right. There's accessibility to that. So how has the story that you're trying to tell from the first time you put a foraged product into a beer to whatever you've done most recently, how has that story changed?
In a couple of ways. I think one thing is learning about the people behind a lot of the stuff that we can get, building relationships with farmers, with foragers, with producers and purveyors, that we're the value add, right? As the end product maker, and we're the flashing end of the stick, but we're not the ones doing the really hard work. We get to take all the hard work of other people, whether it's conservationists that are taking care of the land that we live on so that we can go out and forage these ingredients, or whether it's the farmers that grow the grain, or a local hop farm, whatever it is. It's all of those folks that are the real superheroes doing the work. And I wasn't aware and ready for just how filling it would be for me to pursue foraged and local and beers of time and place relationally, because of all the people that basically spend their lives cultivating all of those things, so that, and I get to
Yeah.
make a fun beer with it and hang out at a bar.
Well, when I talked to the Nature Conservancy, I wanted to ask them about that too. How does it feel to do mise en place, or like framing of that too in a different way? And even for farmers too, they are doing like all of that is the food prep. To me, everything that goes from soil all the way down to where like I package and give it over.
Yeah.
And it's funny, that's just the last 10% is what sauce do you add on it? What but it stands out so much, but it's already done so much in that process along the way. And it sounds like there's some of that too. Now, why do you pick certain ingredients?
It can be myriad reasons, right? Sometimes it is you want to highlight something that didn't get as much awareness as it should. When I started my Piney Grove IPA, which was the start of October Forest Fest, it was, I want to make an IPA, but I don't want to have to use hops from Pacific Northwest or, the Southern Hemisphere or whatever. I want to do something. I want to get to a similar flavor profile, but using something that's local to get there. So we can, again, time and place. So that's how I found longleaf pine, the work that Nature Conservancy was doing. Sometimes it's I want to get to a certain flavor profile.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to find something local that has those characteristics so that I can make a beer that way. Sometimes it's, there's a person or an organization doing great work that you want to highlight. So then you work backwards and say, what can we use that you're already doing so that I can make something so I can bring awareness to what you're doing. Or it can just be, I don't know if anybody's ever done anything with this. What can I do? There's so many win-wins when you go for that. I remember the first time I brewed a beer using crimson clover.
Yeah.
And crimson clover is an amazing cover crop.
It has clover. Okay.
Yeah, it's clover, but it's beautiful, deep ruby clover. And it's one of those win-wins because the farmer knows that I'm going to come and I'll take all that crimson clover when he's going to deadhead it anyway, and then I get to make a beer out of it, and then I get to highlight the farm, and then people start to realize why cover crops are so important, and it's been awesome to do stuff like that.
Do you have a favorite? I don't want to say resurrection story, but in terms of nobody held out hope for this plant.
So I will say, actually, part of this process of doing October Forest Fest, when we grew it from just the beer that I was doing to the festival and other partner breweries with partner landscapes, eelgrass on the eastern shore of Virginia, because that was one where we were like, listen, this is the iconic work that TNC is doing, the Nature Conservancy is doing in the Barrier Islands. Sure hope it doesn't taste like hot garbage. How do we do this thing?
I'm sure. Why is it called
eelgrass? Because it literally does. Yeah, it's long, thin, and it's underneath the water, so it kind of has that little wave.
I got you.
Would have critical piece of subaquatic vegetation, and we talked about this. It's a blue carbon sink, right? The eastern shore of Virginia has the largest blue carbon project on the globe,
right?
And blue carbon by acre is 10 times the carbon sink that tropical rainforest is. So it's incredible. So that was one of those
carbon sequestration.
I hope that we can find a way that we can make a beer that with this ingredient that actually tastes good. And it does. And we learned so much about eelgrass from a different perspective too, which has been really fun. Getting to bring culinary and brewing eyes to things that, for a partner like the Nature Conservancy, they're not looking at these things through those lenses.
Right.
So they get to learn something at the same time that we get to learn so much. We certainly learn far more than they do.
Yeah.
But it's been neat to have them go, I never would have thought to eat that. Yeah. Right? Should we do that?
Well, I want to stick on eelgrass for a second though too, because it does seem to have a significant ecological role. And what I'm curious about is it disappearing? What are they doing?
What's happening? At least on the eastern shore, a couple of things. It's almost like deforestation, but aquatically, right?
Sure.
If you're dredging, if you're doing all sorts of different industrial fishing apparatuses, a lot of times you're just stripping all of that stuff off the floor.
Gotcha.
The ocean floor. And obviously, all these eelgrasses, you're going to be in shallow areas. So it's either you're doing it for crabbing or you're trying to put down oyster cages, stuff like that. So the area in the Barrier Islands, they had a storm, I think in the 60s, that just wiped out. Hurricane came to it, I think wiped out so much of the eelgrass there, and that's what the Nature Conservancy is trying to rebuild.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so it kind of depends on I guess what's going on, but there's a multitude of reasons why some of that stuff would be taken away. But again, working with local, whether it's aqua farms or nature's conservancy groups, to find ways to bring these back in and then learn about them.
I mean, that's what I find to be so cool, is like to learn about what role it's playing, what thing, and then to have kind of an experience with it. And I get that it's in a different form, but I don't have the, sometimes I have the ability to go out and like go look in the river and be like, like be looking at one while drinking one. But that relationship, so that's what role it plays in the ecology. What role did it play in the beer?
The eelgrass itself.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a goza. So a nice briny tart beer. So this eelgrass, initially we thought like, oh, it'll be great because it's living in the ocean. So it'll obviously be saline. Not saline at all, actually. There was really no salinity to it. It's huge umami. And as we've used it over the years, we've found that the younger shoots actually have like a neat fruitiness to them. The team down at Fossen, which does the partnership with the TNC's landscape in the Barrier Islands, have done amazing work really getting to know the differences. But like watching the TNC team down there get to learn that like, hey, the younger shoots taste fruity is just nothing that they would ever think about. But now that we know, because we pulled it and went, we have an idea that since it's in the salt water, it's going to bring us salt. And then it went, we're not going to do that. We're going to taste like nori. And you're like, oh, that is unique.
Well, I want to know about is what is the beginning part of that process? Whenever you find a foraged ingredient, do you go out and just assess it, just immediately put it in your mouth, or like, you know what I mean? Do you go home?
Sometimes not immediately. Sometimes you Google it and make sure that it's not toxic and going to kill you. That's always a win. So yes, always find some local foragers, which again is a fun thing because those folks love to be seen and getting in community and going, okay, so I know that we know about this from a natural benefit to the landscape, but who can we talk to that may have insight? It's really interesting too because there's so many of these things that we find out that Native American tribes had been using forever and that we just lost culturally ourselves. And then you start to relearn history a little bit. So I mean, it can be as simple as connecting with a local guide who has insight. There are other things too, like when we used pine, we knew that the pine was not toxic and we could mess with it.
Right.
So, but you're also not necessarily going to just chaw on pine shats because they're,
sorry,
called
pine
needles.
what?
Shats?
Cool.
Yeah.
What is that part?
That's the needle. It's called a shat.
That's funny. I never knew that.
Yeah. And now when I say that out loud, I realize it's not the most normal term.
Oh, you didn't do that before?
Around.
No.
Yeah, now I'm realizing that. Pine needles. But yeah, so like you're not going to necessarily chaw on a pine needle or a shat. Neither one sounds fantastic.
No.
But you can make a tea out of stuff. You know what I mean? Like that's a really easy way. Just to steep it in some hot water, allow it to express itself. Particularly if it's some sort of vegetation, it'll typically have some sort of oil content that you can, expose that.
And these forages that you're meeting too. So what are some of the relationships that you've been getting out of these experiences? Because it sounds like foragers, you're working with these nonprofits or other conservancy agencies. What kind of relationships come out of this?
So eye-opening ones, really refining and reflective relationships that help me see how much more connected what I do is to everything else, really. And that's the best part of any job, is realizing that we're built to be in community as people. It's it's baked in the cake. So getting to see that we really all are more alike than we are different, and everything that I do affects you and everything you do affects me. And that can be really beautiful when we're aware, and when we realize that I can use my superpower to make you be seen and realize that you matter just because you exist, and you can do the same for me. And that, again, it takes us from painting in primary to painting in shades, where I get to see just how much deeper my work is. Than I make beer and give it to people so they can drink beer.
Right.
That's
the
not
isolation of it too. And I think we're starting to get a better picture of that too. We're figuring out how we interact with our neighbors in a way that it's not just you and I do me, but what you do does have an effect.
Yeah.
And that ecosystem, getting a better understanding of nature, I'm seeing it through farmers where they're getting a better idea of whether it's ecological farming, permaculture, whatever these styles and systems are.
Yeah.
It's holistic. And you're seeing this rise of like the holistic medicine and not just isolating one thing and fixing it. So what do you think this whole program, in that same sense, let's talk about it as like the community health.
Yeah.
How does it improve community health?
Oh man, so many ways. I mean, one of the biggest for me is just on folks that either have come to the festival before or have been able to have one of the beers out in market, whether it was in can or draft at some restaurant, whatever. We oftentimes don't know. There's so much information overload. We're inundated with news and podcasts and memes, and it can be hard to know what's happening in your own tiny little world.
Yeah.
Because we're given so much other world all the time. So just watching folks realize that the Nature Conservancy is doing something in their backyard and that it's impacting their lives on a daily basis has been one of the best gifts, I feel like, that this whole project has done. I would have had no idea that the Nature Conservancy saved longleaf pine in Virginia 30 years ago. There were like 250 trees, and that was it. And it was the timber that built colonial America. It's the basically only habitat for the red-cockaded woodpecker, which then allows all sorts of other things to come. Would have had no idea that they are managing tens of thousands of acres of this forest.
Wait,
now.
is this the tree that like makes the blue?
Yeah, so it's amazing. It's such an incredible, and it's such a part of our history. I would have had no idea.
I've literally been telling people the Blue Ridge Mountains aren't going to be blue anymore. This tree that was this pine that would let off this thing, but you gave a blue hue.
So
am I wrong?
No, it's one of those things where
that's great.
It's in your backyard, you don't know it, and then once you realize it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
You know? And like, when you see a longleaf pine next to a loblolly, or I say regular, I love a loblolly. I'm not disparaging loblollies. All the loblollies out there, calm down.
Loblolly lovers.
Yes.
I get it.
The big loblolly lobby is going to come after you. But no, like when you see a longleaf next to a loblolly or a white pine or something, it looks like a giant koosh ball of a tree. Like you have no idea. They call it longleaf for a reason. I mean, they're huge, the needles on this tree. And you don't see it. So just the awareness of how much work is being done all around us by so many different groups, individuals, organizations that feed the land we live off of.
Yeah.
Not just agriculturally, but just from a conservation standpoint. And there's also feel a draw then when people get to have and consume something that's born from the land around them, that they can then go and be a part of that land. I mean, there's a old growth forest.
Yeah.
Literally will lower your blood sugar by walking through old growth forest. Like the whole forest bathing.
I know about touching the soil, touching the dirt.
So the Japanese scientists have gone through and done studies, but like the microbiology, the air flowing around an old growth forest, it literally is beneficial to your health. It will lower your...
I should ask first, what is old growth forest versus new? It sounds like old money and new money.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, so old growth forest is like native forest that is mixed and has been there for a long time, as opposed to like you drive down the road, all you see is pine.
Oh.
It's because pine is really good for lumber, so old growth forest gets mowed down because in 20 years,
I get what
you can get more pine trees, and then you can chop it all down and send it for lumber.
Yeah.
But we literally lose healthy environment when we knock down all that old growth forest and just plant monoculture pine or whatever that's.
When it's the analogies things too, in terms of, or the metaphors or however you want to put it, but we're talking about the ecology and like the stagnation of that, or looking at commodity crops and pine or whatever else though too. But somebody had brought up, and it was a point you're making earlier, that just the stresses of the world.
Yeah.
Our brains are still just pretty much set up for the gossip of the village.
Yes.
And then we evolved real quick to where like now my stress is every global conflict happening, everything.
Yes.
And you wonder why depressed, all these fun things that tie into it. But it's funny trying to get back to, you can share a beer with somebody and have the gossip of the village again.
Yes.
Or it feels that way.
Yes.
You can kind of...
It's an anchor, right?
Yeah, you can hone that back in. But the conversations that come out of this too, and like what you're people about, which is figuring out a way to connect people to place, like to where they live. What, if any of these two, has made you feel most connected to the land? And in a weird way, I mean, you're not a farmer, right?
No.
Cool. But you're a steward in certain ways.
Yeah. I mean, it's my responsibility to be a steward, like, especially when you get in relationship with these folks, you realize how much working to your benefit, to my benefit, there's enough and a weight to that impact your daily decisions and the things that you do. I mean, I remember when we first went to the Piney Grove Preserve with Bobby Clontz and just the whole the whole space. It was unlike any forest I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
It was funny. The story he tells is that the Native Americans used controlled burns, right, to manage their forest. And then the smart Europeans came in and said, oh, we got to stop all these fires and just let the forest be natural and wild. And then we lost so much of what we actually needed, which was the remembrance that we are nature and nature is us and we're a part of the system. And this idea of like, we just have to leave it and let it be today isn't really the full measure of what we need to be doing. We need to be proactively a part of it and stewarding the lands around us and getting to be a part of that with folks that do that for a living.
Yeah.
And are so wise and skilled has been massive. So
yeah. What just for you too, but what philosophy?
Oh man.
Or better question, what philosophy do you hope to project in kind of these stories through beer as a medium? I look at you like an artist too, and it's like, oh, my canvas. But what philosophy do you kind of project out of that?
But I would say that everything that we do just has an impact. So choose wisely, right? Like things happen to intend for them to, or you allow for them to. I just want to be intentional. And I would hope that through this project, through the kinds of beers that I brew, the like-minded folks that we get to be in community with, I would say that the hope is that we realize, again, we are part of nature, that nature is part of us, and that all of it is community. It's not just the people that are around us, it's the planet beneath our feet. And the more intentional that we are kind of within those spaces, just the better life is.
Yeah, it sounds like a healthier, longer-term relationship.
Yes.
What I was going to say, though, too, is why for somebody else that wants to, let's brewer, even, if somebody else wants to brew one of these ingredients, I think there's a lot of possibly misconceptions about why that would not work. But why would they do it?
So I think some of the misconceptions that it's too hard, or that it won't sell, or that people, won't get it. I actually believe the complete opposite. I already believed it, and then having done projects like this or the beers that we've made, have seen the proof of concept as well. People are longing to be in community again, like we've said. Like we are born for community, and making beers like this is expressing time and place. It's speaking your local language in a way that we are longing for. I mean, there are growing epidemics of loneliness because of how much other world we have and not our local community, and how you can live next door to folks your entire life and never actually be neighbors and live these crazy isolated lives. So beers like this, particularly for craft brewers, craft brewing is a values-based proposition, right? It's different. When it started, it was all about like, no, we're going to be local, we're going to be small, we're for our community. That shouldn't stop at the ingredients you put in your beer.
That's very, very true.
You shouldn't commoditize and just, I don't know where the grain comes from,
Yeah.
but I'm here for the local community. Are you? Like, I believe that your intent is there, but let's follow this all the way through. If you're really for your community.
You kind of forget the idea as you scale sometimes.
Yeah, right?
I had a board game years and years ago that was called Brewopoly.
No way.
And it was all micro brews.
That's
But even by the time I remember finding it years later, and I opened it up and just knowing which of the, I mean, like, there's just some of the, like Sam Adams on there as a micro brewer.
Yep.
And so I just remember seeing all that. I was like, oh my God, and then like noticing who had blown up.
Yep.
But anyways, just in terms of how to do this. So is there a certain scale that you think this works at, like, regional brewers or?
So the old Arthur Ashe quote, which I think he adapted from somebody else, but I attribute it to him, was start where you are, use what you have, do what you can. Their scalability is not an issue for me.
Yeah.
It's about intention and follow through.
Yeah.
Right? Like the breweries that I've worked at, the brewery that I had, like we were small enough that I could be out using 100% local malts, be really hyper local with my concentric circles of where we got stuff.
Yeah.
If you're an existing brewery that's, really large and doing stuff, I totally understand. You can't just overnight shift everything and switch. Half the time, the supply isn't even built for it locally because they're not ready to jump to, oh, you need 1 million pounds of grain this month? Yeah, no problem. We can do that. Like, well, no, we don't even have the former infrastructure to get to the maltster to do these sorts of things. So for me, it's more about find what you can do to support your local community, because like Port City Brewing out of Alexandria, Virginia, right? They use all local wheat for their optimal wit, which is it's one of the best wit beers in the nation consistently. They're far larger, right? Than Fine Creek. But the impact of them for one beer using all local wheat is huge, right?
Yeah.
They'll produce more of that beer, just that one beer a year, than like I'll produce with all the beers we make in the brewery. One entire
ingredients.
So it's really about, it's not a scalability thing. It's just an intention thing.
No, I think that's great. And as I'm listening to you, the things going through my head are that, I work with a lot of farmers, and even I've said this at one point too, for what I do, but it's a community cultivator, right? But what's funny is as I'm listening to you, I'm realizing that you are foraging friendships.
Yes.
You are fermenting philosophy, right? These other I love alliterations, but it's really interesting to hear you talk about it, where it had 4 dimensions. To a drink 3-dimensional, which is really nice. And it's because you'll talk about the nodes, or like what do you guys talk about?
What
is it note, like flavor profile?
Yeah, the notes,
whatever else,
aromatic profile, whatever.
It feels like another flavor. Is the and it adds something. Do you feel like it does? It adds something to that?
No, it's so funny when people talk about beer isn't seasonal. It's just a product. But no, because beer doesn't grow on trees. It's a human produced thing. That is within a context, right?
Yeah.
Like I like chili in the fall. I don't like chili in July.
Sure.
Right? So I think the human experience, the emotion, the atmosphere, the context absolutely imparts itself in the flavor of the actual beverage, because we're human beings. Like this is what we do.
Yeah. Do you use any of those? I know terroir has come up even with C. Have you heard of terroir?
Absolutely.
Got that one. Gestalt.
Yes.
Right.
Well done.
Sure. But what do you? Which term do you use any of those kind of terms, or do you have one that
usually I say sense of time and place? Because I feel like that is maybe a little more encompassing of what looking to do. Because yes, you can literally taste the land, terroir. You can literally taste the water, terroir. But I would also hope that more and more we're tasting the people. No. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're coming. But tell me what you mean by that.
But yeah. This is all born out of community.
Yeah.
Right. And hopefully, what we're doing is producing something that goes right back to that community and helps them see themselves, be inspired, be encouraged, be edified. Because there's so much more context around what it is that we're producing than just it has these flavor notes.
Yes.
If that makes sense. Like this was born by this farmer down the road. He's doing these sorts of things. This is why it matters what you do with your, rainwater. It's just
But I want you to tell me now too about a little bit about some of the best relationships that have come out of this process over the years too. Who are some of the other friends that you've made and they're killing it right now? Like let's
in the industry?
In the industry. Like, who are some of the other value add people? Who are some of the folks? You mentioned the guy that worked at the Nature Conservancy and takes care of a certain area.
Yes,
like
Bobby.
Who are the heroes to you?
Oh man. So the TNC as a whole, Bobby Clance for me has just been a guy that the moment I met him, it was kindred.
Yeah.
Just immediately. And again, that's what I love so much about these kinds of partnerships is that you would think that breweries love doing brewery to brewery collabs, but that's just 2 beer people making beer, and that's fun and it's enjoyable.
Yeah.
But man, it's so filling and fueling to spend time with folks that don't do what I do for a living.
Yeah.
But they do the same thing I do for a living.
Yeah.
They're stewarding relationship and community and time and place. They're using a different medium, but getting to do something together that crosses all that over. So Bobby's a huge one. Aaron Cooper of Cut Fresh Organics is a guy that I've gotten to know through this process of being a brewer, and amazing farmer, 11th generation out on the Eastern Shore of Maryland.
Yeah.
And he was the guy to convert all 425 acres of his family's land to organic and regenerative.
Wow. That's tough.
Watching him walk through that process and realizing like how much that guy cares.
Yeah.
And like nobody knows him.
You have to put in so much more effort. It's not a simple switch.
No. And it's expensive and it's time consuming and you're dealing with legislation and regulations and codes and all sorts of stuff. But for me, like I want to use what he produces that much more, and I want to take that much more care of it, and I want to put his face on the can, and I want to show off,
showing the effort that goes into that too.
You know,
who's another hero?
I would say Alex Lambert, who's an incredible aqua farmer down on the eastern shore of Virginia. Lambert Shellfish, he is doing insane work, showing. He's working like with the Institute of Marine Sciences, and I think the Nature Conservancy as well. He has his drone license, pilot's license, so he can
Part 107.
Yeah, exactly, right. But it's huge because what he's doing is he's showing that oystering, particularly kind of in the ways that he's doing it, is not just neutral but beneficial for subaquatic vegetation, for bringing back crabbing, for bringing back bay scallops, all these different things. He has these really cool long lines that he uses for his oysters. His cages are hexagonal, like tubes almost. So as the tides come in, they're like
pulling and pulling. Yeah.
You know?
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, like he's beyond, because he's not just cultivating oysters, he's cultivating ecology and community.
Yeah.
And he is putting teaching and so much care, you know, so he's a guy.
Just to be clear, you put oysters in one of your beers?
So consistently, there's a oyster that we've been making for 9-10 years now. It's fantastic. It's all ingredient, right? One of the really neat things about that beer is, so Goza is an old century style, right? Born from the Goslar region of Germany. So Germany, it was a Berliner Weiss, basically like a wheat beer.
Yeah.
But the River Goza was naturally saline, so it was like this briny, salty, tart wheat beer, right? Almost lost after World War II just because of the devastation. American brewers found it, started bringing it back. Standard process is you make, you know, like a tart wheat beer, and then you add salt into it. We wanted to showcase the land and waters of the Eastern Shore and these incredible aqua farmers. So we partner with local oyster shucking houses, and we only use oyster flesh and the shucking liquor, and that's where all the salinity in the beer comes from.
Shucking liquor being I've never heard it called that way, but I'm assuming
is the in the
interesting.
So the really neat thing is we also get to take a waste product that shouldn't be wasted, because when they're packing pint jars of oysters for sale commercially, you as a consumer don't want half oysters, half juice. Like, you're going to make fritters or chowder or whatever, so you want a tight packed thing of actual oysters, right? So all that just goes dumped down the drain. So they, tablespoon by tablespoon, for all of that for us. Yeah. And then we use that in the
so interesting
now, which is really the hard work the oysters are doing anyway. So fermented with a yeast that we actually cultivated off of a Shinketig oyster. But again, it's Eastern Shore, Virginia in a glass.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's the hard work of watermen and waterwomen in a glass, you know, and it's terroir in a glass, because an oyster isn't an oyster. An oyster is an oyster in the fall, in the summer, in the winter. Yeah. Like, they change because of the temperature, the swiftness of tide, upriver, downriver, you know, like how much subaquatic veg there was right then. Like, it all changes.
You can so many opportunities.
Seasonality. So people would come to us like, oh man, it's not as salty. What happened to the recipe? Nothing. It's the summer, and they're fatter and they're more umami. In the winter, they'll be more briny because they've like lost their fat reserves and it's more ocean
seasonal
water.
Beers.
Yeah.
All right. Give me heroes.
Two more heroes. I would actually, for one, say Brian Mandeville, who is the brewer here at Fine Creek Brewing. Yeah. He's a guy that I have loved and respected for a long time, and he's a giant, in my opinion, in the industry. He's been leading the way for a long time, brewing beers of time and place, and just incredibly generous with his communication, with his education to anybody who is fortunate enough to sit down and have fun with them. So he's a big of mine.
I was going to call him Tree Brewed or something like that.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a shepherd beard guy.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it so much.
So cool. And then anybody else in the process too that you feel like is doing a great job of whether they're sourcing or helping community?
Jeff Bloom at Murphy and Reed Malting in Charlottesville, Virginia. He is our only maltster in Virginia. And he's one of those guys that like I just want to protect at all costs because we so desperately need him.
Yeah.
And he is a guy, he was like a wildland firefighter, like just a crazy guy.
I didn't even know that.
Becomes like I think he was like a lobbyist lawyer in DC for a while. Like they're just a crazy dude.
Oh.
Wicked talented, so smart, and decides to open a malt house because he's a sociopath. That's right.
Yeah. I've known him as a maltster.
Yeah.
And when he told me that too, I was like, dude, that sounds a little violent. Sure, you're a maltster. And just for those that don't know too, what is the...
So a maltster is somebody who takes the grain that the farmers grow, germinates it, steeps it, germinates it, kilns it, so that we can then use it on the brewing side to convert starch to sugar and make wort, which is the unfermented sugar water that we make with barley to make beer. So he's the guy.
Pillar ingredients that...
Yes. I mean, there's 4 ingredients for beer: water, yeast, hops, and malt, malted barley. So without Jeff, we couldn't really have local Virginian beer.
Yeah.
And he is about he's local beer than we are. He's standing side by side with farmers, hands in the dirt. It's that he bears, and he bears it, gleefully, snarkily sometimes too.
Cool.
Which I dig.
I think that's good.
But no, he gets it. He's absolutely fantastic.
Well, and so in this too, you've talked a little bit about these great people that are doing these great things, and then also there's these folks. There's always like elders in an industry. There's adapters. There's these innovators too, and folks that are trying new things. Something that we talked about before that I was really interested in is, we're talking about looking at new ways to look at weeds or other things that have a certain name, but no, it's ingredients.
Yeah.
Don't be derogatory. And then on the other side of it too, ways to make even ingredients that are already established in brewing.
Yeah.
And taking those waste products. And from that, how do you go about doing that?
So it is neat because the more that you realize how much effort it takes to just have the we live on by so many people, it does make you see your wastefulness as a human being. And really try to dial that in. So one thing that we've done is hops are typically the most expensive ingredient in beer.
Yeah.
Both actually to the brewer, but also in its draw on resources as far as the actual farming of hops goes.
Yeah.
IPAs are still king of the land, right? As far as sold beer craft categories. So most people make an IPA because they, either really love them or they like to pay an electric bill. So you make an IPA, and IPAs are IPAs because they get dry hopped, which is kind of the worst term because there's nothing dry about beer.
Okay.
Not sure who came up with that one. It's more about like it's not used on the hot side during the boil and production process. It's used either during fermentation or post fermentation, which is more standard, 65 to 72 degree range, like room temp, right? Hops are a flowering cone, so similar to if you were making a cup of Earl Grey at home, and you take, a room temperature mug of water and you steep your Earl Grey. You're not going to draw a lot of bitterness, right?
Yeah.
You're going to get some aroma, but it's not also going to be a ton of aroma because, again, you're not extracting. Like heat is what extracts from the flowering cones. So inversely, like if you boiled an Earl Grey tea bag for 25 minutes, it would be all bitter, no aroma. It'd be super dull, right?
Yeah.
So this is why when people are making IPAs, they add hops post the boil, but you have to add a ton of them. You get really no bitterness, which is great. So you can get a ton of aroma, but you have to add a whole load of hops to do so because, again, it's room temp. You're not extracting near as much.
It's warm.
So hop researchers found that typically best case scenario when you are dry hopping with these hops, the brewer is getting max like 30% utilization from the most expensive ingredient, which is
a lot of money.
And just incredibly wasteful in a lot of ways, right? So one of the things that we've started to do is basically brew and like re-hop these beers. I'll brew a second. Yeah. Like, so if we do a big IPA, when we're transferring that IPA, we'll brew a pale ale. Yeah. So we have a little like lower ABV. So it's already there's to stand up against as far as the base beer goes. Yeah. And go right back into the tank on those, now second use hops. And we get loads of aromatics.
It's a different tier, a different type of beer, but it still works for that.
Yes.
The only thing I can think of while you're saying this is like my mom.
Yeah.
Whenever we make coffee at the house or when I'm visiting them, it's, first pass coffee is for my dad and me. Then she goes, put more water in it. I want that second steep. And that hits the caffeine level she wants.
That's so funny.
And so she doesn't water it down. But anyway, so it's kind of, And can you do 3, or is it like...
I haven't gone to 3 yet, but I'm sure there are different ways. And then even after that too, like, so where do your hops go? Is it just down the drain and into the municipal water system?
Yeah.
Or can you side stream that, and can it go to local farmers? There's loads of nitrogen. Pigs, right?
Oh, there.
Loads of nitrogen. Yeah. Because typically your grain, once used, like that'll go to pigs or cattle or something like that. And that's very standard industry because you have to get rid of it anyway.
Wait, have you done that yet? Where you've given it to a farmer and they make compost tea out of it?
Oh, no, not yet. Which would be, it would be really interesting to do.
Okay, sorry.
Well,
I'm just sitting there going like, how do we get to like 70% usage of that thing?
No, but I know
pigs love eating it too.
Pigs love eating the grain. I know that we have sent like hops to local gardeners, local farms, so they can do some nitrogen loading and things like that.
Oh,
yeah. We've even talked about out on the shore. We had talked about sending, because there was no sewer system on the eastern shore, on Chincoteague, at least where I had a while. There was all like pump and haul tanks. So you could potentially get your own pump and haul license. You could pump your own water. Take it to, as long as the lab tests, it's all good. Take it to local farm. Like the farm that we were working with was a biodynamic farm. They were talking about getting a giant, basically plastic conical, almost fermenter, right?
Yeah.
And then doing vortex motion. And then that vortex motion over time will drop all the solids. And then they have like crop water.
Yeah.
That they're reusing spent rinse water, because I'm the arbiter of what goes down our drains. If it's just yeast and hops and grain and then water, well, they can vortex that stuff out and we can reuse that water consistently, as opposed to sending that whole load to the municipal water system and having to have to go through that process.
That's so funny. From like the oyster liquor to like down to the, well, I mean, I don't know what you call it, the
rainwater,
malt liquor.
No,
yes, would be malt. But anyways, I have a friend of mine who farmer that is doing a lot of this, where he's trying to build out a system so that he can get 1 part high nitrogen, 1 part nitrogen, 1 part brown matter, like leaves and foliage and things from the farm. And it's not really a compost tea per se, but just in terms of putting those match so that he can offset buying these new fertilizer in a sense, and just use stuff from the property back in, which is great. And that's what I feel like you're doing too, is like it's figuring out these symbiotic relationships when you think of if different industries are different creatures, right?
Yes.
And how they can work together in a better way. Now, how do you guys showcase this? Or more importantly, I think, what's the, I'm going to use a northern shore, kind of like term, but what is the brackish water where consumers in general can experience these stories you're talking about?
A couple of places. Obviously the festival that we do, October Forest Fest, and the work that we do with these beers. I would say there's beer made locally, and there's local beer.
Yeah.
They're not.
Oh, funny. Right?
I like that. You can be like people say, oh, we're a local brewery. Like how local? Building is local. Yeah. Their people are local, and you're producing the thing locally. But if all your ingredients are from Canada and Australia and, California, like it stops being local at some point.
Yeah.
Right. And people get with farm to table restaurants. And for some reason right now, there's still kind of a disconnect mentally of, but that's two other things too. Like you realize when you go to a farm to table restaurant, like, okay, I'm going to be eating local food. When you go to an Applebee's, you don't presume the lettuce is local,
but it gets like, I love that differentiation, because it gets stretched much that even when people tell me like, we're a family owned farm, like every owner everywhere has a family of everything. Like, are you a family owned and operated?
Exactly.
Are you like, so how those terms get misused. So, and say it one more time, because I love that. There's local breweries.
So there's beer made locally, and there's local beer.
I like it.
Local beer, like beer made locally, it's not by definition local beer. Local beer, subset of beer made locally. And for me, aside from all the benefits, whether dollars staying in the local community or the local supply and being supported, really where I find that there is a quality kick for me in local beer is that you can't get to local beer without a different level of caring and intention as a brewer. And if I care that much, the products show that. So look for breweries that are making local beer, not just beer made locally.
And if people want to experience that, tell me more about the October Forest Fest.
October Forest Fest,
Where is it?
October
What is
Forest
it?
Fest.
Why is it?
September 7th here at Fine Creek in beautiful Powhatan, Virginia. It is the festival where we bring together the 4 partner breweries with their Nature Conservancy landscapes. It is literally a taste of Virginia from the lowest elevation to the highest.
That's so funny.
All 3 corners and the dead center. You are tasting through Virginia, through its iconic landscapes. You are getting the hard work of conservationists in a glass, and really experiencing the Commonwealth in a way that you can't do else. So we've got the 4 partner breweries in the landscapes. We've got a whole bunch of guest breweries that come in, and they can only pour under the onus of you need to meet the ethos of the festival. There are only so many TNC landscapes, so we can't just partner everybody with a TNC landscape in perpetuity. But part of the whole process of starting this festival was evangelizing and proselytizing other breweries to start to get on board with local beer and beer that highlights time and place and champions the conservation efforts of so many people. So they have to be making beers that are of time and place. And it's been such a win to watch folks that see what we're doing and are excited and want to be a part of the fun club. It's just true. They see whoa, they're working with the Nature Conservancy. Yeah. They've got all this, they're using eelgrass and beers. Dude, I could do something like that. Sweet, go do it. Yeah, go find something. And then you watch them have to go through the process of I can do that, but this is stretching, and I'm having to build some relationships, and I'm having to get out of my comfort zone a little bit and meet people where they are, and really get my in the dirt. It's been magical. We have all coming September 7th here. There'll be live music, a whole bunch of activities. The TNC landscapes will be on site too, with all sorts of educational materials and interactive stuff. We've got Mother Shuckers as our their aquafarm in Asselwoman, Virginia. It just gets better and better. Cool. And Monica Borowitz she's the Mother Shucker. Yeah. She's fantastic. She has this insane, crazy blonde, stands. It looks like a koosh ball hair. Okay. She kind of looks like if Guy Fieri had if Guy Fieri had a. Okay. Yeah,
that's kind of
she's
scary.
Amazing.
No, good, yeah, good.
I mean, she wouldn't get on our bedside.
Sure.
Do that to Monica.
Sure, yeah, but I will.
Oyster knife at all times. Yeah, so you'll get shanked. But no, funny. Yeah. So come to October 4th. The beers will also be available in can or in bottle, in distro, out on tap. Across the Commonwealth. So that for me, it would be the first way. And come get it to in one place at one time. A lot of breweries that are doing this kind of work and are passionate about tying the people that make that awesome choice. Because for me, the real superheroes are the consumers, the guests, the friends,
the ones that go and support
they go to these. Yeah, they're the ones that make it all worthwhile, because the folks that just go out and go back to their normal lives and then make small decisions every single day to be more tied to the land that they're on.
Yeah, you follow your feet out your door, and there's no knowing where it's gonna be swept off to. But
before.
I know, but it's that idea too, though, that you got the folks that are doing all this brewing too, and especially you too, piecing all this. It is that opportunity to be a guide.
Yes,
for us. But the real heroic act is the people that then go and show support for this. Absolutely. And come out to it. I really appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate how much you've been, what I like to say, speaking the language of the land. But more importantly, I appreciate how much you're being a translator.
Yeah.
And having others in general be a part of that. So I dig it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Cool.
I always see this one was saying, at the end, and I'm like, hey,
no, that was great.